Is Atlantis going mainstream? Representative Mike Gallagher had some recent comments about an ancient super civilization that may have been behind some of the UFO activity we're seeing. And there are multiple examples of outspoken people talking about UFOs in Atlantis. So let's dive into it. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Okay, let's just get right to it. Appearing on the sports talk show, Gallagher suggested that one possible explanation of supposed UFO sightings was the so-called Terminator theory, derived from the film of the same name, that aliens were actually human beings from the future. And this is an idea you get over and over again in the research, and sometimes the beings will even say they come from the future. So not too crazy. Gallagher further put forth another theory suggesting the following. Instead of us from the future, it might indeed be an ancient civilization that has been lurking here, and suddenly it's making its presence known. In other words, Atlantis. And when I say Atlantis, that's just a placeholder name in my mind for an ancient super civilization that is now vanished, but remnants of it may still lurk. But this ancient civilization was an enlightened civilization of high technology, maybe different from what we have, but of very high technology, and these people seem to have been working with non-human intelligences, whether that's, flesh and blood aliens or cosmic beings or information divine through meditation, who knows? But the ancient Atlanteans, whoever they were, seem to have had high technology passed on to them by non-humans. And just for the record, I do think there's a lot of evidence to support the existence of an actual literal Atlantis, but in a broader sense, I'm using Atlantis just as a means to describe this ancient vanished super civilization. But yeah, a sitting U.S. congressperson is talking about the idea of Atlantis and how that pertains to modern UFO sightings. To be fair, he also talks about the possibility of time travelers from the future, which again comes up a lot in the research, and that may in fact be part of what we're seeing. So I'm going to show you some clips of people like Lou Elizondo, Ross Coulthart, John Ramirez, and others talking about the evidence of ancient civilizations working with non-humans. Let's hear what Lou has to say.
When you have material that has been found before supposedly we as a species had a technology to engineer it that way, then you've got to ask the question. And this is why I've said before, a 747 isn't uncommon to see at an international airport. But imagine being the first guy to break into King Tut's tomb, and of all the things you find in there, you find an intact 747 sitting in the tomb. Doesn't make sense, does it? Because 747s weren't around when King Tut was around. So what the hell is a 747 doing in King Tut's tomb? So that's the best analogy that I can use.
So a great analogy to describe ancient civilizations side by side with high technology, potentially like UFOs, which may be what he's talking about here, finding a UFO in some archaeological site, clearly, suggesting the connection between these ancient peoples and non-humans. And he's not the only one to talk about this. Bob Lazar talked about how one of the UFOs in S4 was recovered from an archaeological site, and others have talked about this as well. These weren't crashed vehicles, supposedly, seemingly. These were just found in an archaeological site, seeming to suggest that it was left there. Again, a clear connection between ancient peoples and non-humans. Now let's listen to what Ross Coulthart has to say.
And that's the way they viewed the Wandjina stories. The Wandjina stories were essentially stories of beings that came down and visited the Aboriginal people 30, 40,000 years ago. There are similar stories, by the way, that go right back to Assyrian civilization. The other side of this that is fascinating is I've been engaging with archaeologists and anthropologists who've talked to me about the implausibility of a lot of the modern explanations for some of the ancient buildings that exist on this planet that do not fit within the time frames of known human technology being developed. Even some of the Egyptian pyramids could not possibly have been built within the time frame that we've described, because they were working with bronze axes, and you have almost laser beam accuracy in some of the buildings that were constructed. Some of the people that I've been talking to in the Pentagon have told me that they think there is strong evidence to suggest that there was a previous civilization on this planet. And one of the things that's been suggested to me is that there might have been a civilization that has shared this planet with us that never left.
They never left, guys. They're still here, and they may be responsible for some of the UFO activity we are seeing. Okay, but what do Tom DeLonge's contacts tell him? Tom DeLonge, he might be out there for some people, but he has got some great contacts. So let's hear what the man has to say.
I don't know. I do know that there's connections to, man, you won't even fucking believe it. I'll tell you that. You want to hear
Please.
it? Atlantis.
Atlantis, the sunken city?
Yeah.
There's a connection?
There's a connection.
What's the connection?
That there's a very advanced group that left after a catastrophe and hung around in a small outpost here, and throughout time would push civilization forward, and that's who the Greek gods were.
Whoa.
Yep. And that's why it's very interesting on the Roswell wreckage, there's Greek writing.
Is there?
There is.
Greek writing and the Roswell wreckage. What could that possibly mean? Could those UFOs have actually come from some surviving remnant of Atlantis or some Atlantis-like civilization? My favorite source of information on Atlantis is Matthias de Stefano, the man who can actually remember a past life where he lived in Atlantis. And this is a young man that has some amazing abilities that have been corroborated by others, so I take him fairly seriously. I've made previous videos about Matthias, but you might want to seek those out, or seek out the source videos of him describing his life in Atlantis. Now, there are various channels out there like Uncharted X that will take you step by step through ancient ruins to show you how it seems like some high technology was used in the creation of these ancient structures. So I will refer you to those channels: Uncharted X, Bright Insight, Funny Old World. Those are some places to get you started looking at these ancient mysteries and how they may be connected to Atlantis and the UFO phenomenon. And of course, it makes sense. If the beings are here now, why wouldn't they have been here tens or hundreds of thousands of years ago? And many people believe that the beings actually created humanity and that they are constantly upgrading us. Could that possibly explain the elongated skull people, for example? Now, a lot of the elongated skull people are simply humans that bound their skulls, but why did they bind their skulls? Did they bind their skulls to emulate potential hybrids or non-humans? Because there are actually skulls that do not appear to have been created through this binding process, that appear to be actually non-human or partially non-human. The cranial capacities of these skulls are larger than human cranial capacity, strongly suggesting that they were not human, or at least not strictly human. The Olmecs, for example, are an ancient people that very likely had some connections to the guys up there. And ancient peoples frequently depicted non-humans in their art. But don't take it from me, take it from Ross Coulthart in his sources. He says people in the Pentagon even know about this, and now we have sitting congresspeople openly talking about the possibility of Atlantis. I love it, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't want to miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. If you wanted to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, there's a PayPal button below, or you can become a channel member. Channel members are rock stars, and thank you guys so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos to check out on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.